Wolfpack. This is Fox Trevize here. Dyer is running a little bit late tonight, so we're going to do a little pre-show shenanigans while we wait for him, so you guys don't have to just sit there and watch the lovely intro and all that dubstep music. I'm sure you guys are all breakdancing and dub-dubbing. But we're going to start off with our traditional military video, military tribute video, and then it looks like the vote was that I will randomly scroll through Twitter and we will commentate on all the glorious garbage that is on my Twitter timeline, and then hopefully Dyer will be back soon. But enjoy the military tribute video. Looks like a good one today, and I'll be right back after that's over.
You can't make me away. You never fool us again.
Alrighty, well, that was fun. Hope you guys enjoyed that. I know I did. It was cool. A lot of cool guns I'd love to have. A lot of cool stuff I will probably never do because I am not that cool, even though I enjoy watching that cool stuff. So, it looked like the vote was that I will randomly scroll through my Twitter timeline while we wait for Dyer and commentate on all the lovely Twitter stuff I find there. This could be dangerous due to some of the people I follow. Let's see what happens. We got some, I should share my screen here. Let's see, we got Ted Cruz here. Hurricanes. Oh, it's all the crazy stuff going on this year. You kind of forget that, like, the rest of the world still is turning. Like, there is still going to be hurricanes. I do vaguely remember hurricanes getting brought up towards the beginning of COVID. Everybody's kind of curious, what are they going to do with the lockdowns and all that kind of stuff. Oh, I'm still not sharing my screen out. Man, doing awful today. Yeah, what are we going to do with when the hurricanes come rolling through and everyone's locked in their house and, like, the hospitals are all filled up with dying people, even though that never really materialized. I guess we'll get to find out when these when these hurricanes roll through. I wonder if you're gonna still have to wear like a mask if when they come to rescue you on your flooded street in little pontoon boats. You have to wear a mask to get on the boat. That'll be interesting. Let's see here. AOC. It is about silencing women and keeping them out. Too many women use of the B word by men as a slur against them is all too common. Yeah, so AOC saying men use the B word too often against them. Like, I mean, maybe I don't know. I don't really think the B word, they're obviously talking about bitch. I don't think that's like that common. Like, I don't know. I don't really... Like, I hear that kind of, like, in jest. It's used ironically, or it's used to describe, like, Hillary Clinton, which is accurate. I mean, it's just descriptive. It's not a slur if it's descriptive. So, I don't know. Like, I've never heard someone just, like, straight up call some girl a bitch in the boardroom, Like, I just don't... I don't believe it. I just don't see it. And even if it was true, is calling girls bitches, is that, like, the top problem that we have in America right now? Is that really where AOC is going to be putting her putting her efforts at right now? I mean, according to her, we have all these other problems going on, and also all the murders in New York are due because people need bread, because that's how you get bread, is you murder people. So I don't know. It's just this, like, it's every little thing. Like, this seems like a really small thing, but it's just this giant web of all these, like, little irrelevancies that are distracting from, like, the real issues. Perhaps AOC could be focusing some of her efforts on, fixing up New York's economy, maybe stopping the 500,000 mostly wealthy people from escaping the city and collapsing their tax base. Oh, what's this? Direwolf responded to this, and he said, "Stop being bossy." And that was 15 minutes ago, which is about when the show would have started. So while Dyer's not on the show, he is still tweeting. And I tweeted back at him. And he says that he's waiting on his wife. So if you guys want to know where Dyer's at, that's where he's at. Because for some reason, his wife always gets some kind of food craving right before the show starts. But... oh, all right, here we go. We got some cute wolves here. There we go. It's howling. Oh, cute fox. Oh, that one's really cute. I love that fox. Who doesn't love that fox? Triumvirate in chat says, we shouldn't call women bitches. That's offensive. Call them feckless cunts. That's what Samantha Bee said to do. Yes. Alrighty. Oh, it's a cute little wolf puppy. He's adorable. I guess in chat, let me know if this is fun. If not, I don't know. You're out of luck because Dyer's not here. I could just start the show without him, but I told him I wouldn't do that. And I do have a practical joke that I'm going to be playing on him in the first story. So I hope you guys are excited for that. But he actually has to be here. Otherwise, the joke won't land because I can't make it at his expense if he's not here. Alrighty. cute huskies. Who doesn't love a cute husky? Let's see here. Last tech tips. Okay, so if you guys are on Twitter and you guys think Twitter sucks, which is basically everybody who's on Twitter, or if you're not on Twitter because you also think Twitter sucks, just keep an eye out for all the people I'm following. You'll see, every now and then there's some news interspersed in there, but it's a lot of cute foxes, cute wolves, cute huskies, and police dogs, which are always good boys. So that has fixed my Twitter timeline. Twitter is at least bearable when it's mostly those things. And I've found that people who don't like Twitter, I show them follow this cloud of people and, this cloud of accounts, and it fixes their Twitter right away. They stop hating Twitter, or at least becomes tolerable. And, who doesn't want to see this sort of stuff? Let's see what this good boy's got to say. Aw. I always think it's funny when like wolves and police dogs, it's always funny when they look adorable, because like the wolves, like they look adorable, and then they're also out there just like absolutely murdering elk. And then the police dogs, like they always look so cute and good, and then they're out there just like biting the shit out of bad guys. It's awesome. Let's see here. Seattle Police Department. Earlier today, at least one person breached the fence line at the East Precinct. Moments later, a device exploded, leaving an 8-inch hole in the side of the precinct. This was one of several dangerous incidents that led SPD to declare today's incident a riot. Arson/bomb detectives investigating. So they're saying this is a 8-inch hole that was made by some kind of explosive. It looks like that's from, I don't know, it's hard to get context from this picture. I mean, that looks like it's on the outside, but it's also like, it looks like the picture is taken from the outside, but also the explosion has bowed the hole towards the camera, implying that the explosion came from inside. I also don't see any charring. I don't know, that looks like maybe somebody like tried to stick like an axe or a bat, or maybe probably like a hammer, like a sledgehammer. That's what that looks like to me, as like a sledgehammer hit. I don't know about explosive. Not that I doubt that there was explosives, but this particular image I don't think shows explosions. Well, look at that, guys. We have a direwolf joining us. Well, welcome to the show.
On the show today.
Yeah. How you doing today, direwolf?
It's been interesting. Let's move on.
Let's move on. All right. Well, we watched a fun military video, and then we've been randomly scrolling through Twitter, and I'm commentating on things. Ooh, this is a nice little gun display here. Let me share. Yeah, I'll share my screen here, and we'll jump into the real show here, because I'm sure everyone loves me just improving. But all right.
It.
Let's see here. So, let me get Dyer up on the screen here, and you can roll into the intro if you would like.
All right, yeah, I wouldn't feel right if I didn't say welcome back, Wolfpack. Dyer Wolf here for our weekly news recap behind enemy lines on YouTube, where speech is not free and the truth is demonetized. If I didn't say that at least one time in the show, I would not feel right.
I also wouldn't feel right.
Yes. And also, do we thank all the people who make the show happen?
Yes.
Awesome. I'll move on then.
Oh no, I didn't thank them. I just said like I thought you said should we thank them, and I was like, yes, of course we should thank them.
Of course. So thank you everyone who makes the show possible. That's people who are donating to us financially or just giving us those likes and shares and subscribes. You're helping the show grow. We thank you, and it's much appreciated. So, are you ready?
Yeah.
Are you ready for this?
You want to ask me how I'm doing today?
Nope. I know how you're doing today. No, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great, and this is actually a special show, Dyer. Do you know what this show is?
No, what is it?
This is the 1 year. I've been with you for a whole year of doing shows. This is the anniversary of the first live show that I did with you full time. Great fun.
Oh, that's awkward. That coincides with the day we were fired as well. I'm sorry.
Oh, God. It's also funny, too, is that we made it an entire year of doing the show on time, and then you fucked it up at the end. How dare you?
I ruined it.
No, I've had a lot of fun this last year. I much appreciate you for bringing me on and tolerating me, and also to all your fans that also tolerate me. Much appreciation for the just bare minimum of toleration.
Oh, Fox, behave. We don't tolerate you.
Ah.
No, I mean, it's been great having you on the show. You are saying you're an asset to the show seems like it's understating the fact. You're an awesome friend. You're also very, very intelligent. And I'm glad having your perspective added to the show has helped it grow a lot. If not in audience size, definitely quality.
The highest
but yeah,
quality.
most appreciated. All right, let's move on.
All right. Thanks, Triumvirate. See, Triumvirate says he loves me. So take that, Direwolf. Alrighty, guys. First story. First story is... Let's see. Oh, this is a hell of a first story. We didn't do a funny intro, like a funny opening video, because this story is so funny. It requires no other funny comment to start it up. So, Don Lemon is actually, like, we knew that he was dumb, but he's officially certified as the dumbest guy on TV. He's this week we found out, again, like I said, we all knew he was dumb, but like this week he is certified as the dumbest guy on TV. On Wednesday night, yes, it's a proven fact. On Wednesday night, CNN host Don Lemon and also CNN host Chris Cuomo, the dumber of the Cuomos, which is saying a lot, put on a moronic display during the handoff between their shows as an attempt to mock President Trump for stating that repeatedly that he did well on a mental acuity test, and their attempt to make fun of him fell flat on his face when they actually could not complete the test that Trump said he aced.
And it's not like they went through the test and got one thing wrong. It's the one thing they referenced on the test they got wrong. So they currently have a 0 score on the test.
of all the attempted questions.
Because I don't know if you know this, but if you're taking a test and you just refrain from answering a question, it's still 0.
Well, I guess, is it like the SAT? Like, you get penalized for answering wrong, and you get, like, less penalty if you just don't answer at all? I don't know.
But they still would have failed the test.
Yes, that is the point being.
So we're going to show you the clip of both Trump talking about it and them talking about Trump talking about it. And during that clip is when they pulled up the test, and they both reference one of the questions that has 3 animals, and it's supposed to be a rhino in the middle there, and they both get it wrong. I believe it's Don Lemon referring to it as a hippopotamus, and
we'll watch it and we'll commentate. We don't want to make the same mistake they did.
Anyways,
was 30 or 35 questions.
You ready?
The first question.
Or did you want to read that part?
Yeah, I'll read it. So Trump was describing a mental acuity test that he had taken and passed. This kind of test is taken generally just to see how healthy you are if you're someone who's getting up there in age, but is more commonly taken when you're suspected of a brain injury. Like for me, in my life, they have us take a mental acuity test prior to a deployment and after deployment to measure whether or not we've had brain damage or if our mental acuity has changed because of some factor during the deployment. This idea of mental health and mental acuity is really important just to see why we're talking about this in the first place. We have to understand it's important because the Democrats have made it important for this upcoming election. They have simultaneously claimed that Trump is mentally unstable. Since even before he was elected, they've been accusing him of being mentally unstable. And then simultaneously, they've been ignoring the fact that their presumptive candidate, Joe Biden, is clearly, at best, sunsetting, at worst, full-blown senile. So that if you're wondering why we're even talking about this acuity test in the first place, because it actually is important to this important issue, according to the Democrats, for this upcoming election. Let's hear what they have to say about it.
Alrighty.
It was 30 or 35 questions. The first questions are very easy. The last questions are much more difficult. Like a memory question, it's like you'll go person, woman, man, camera, TV. So they say, could you repeat that? So I said, yeah. So it's person, woman, man, camera, TV. Okay, that's very good.
When do you take that? That looks like something for middle school.
Well, you take that when, usually, listen, I'm not a doctor, and I'm going to let Dr. Reiner explain it in a little bit.
Yeah.
But usually when there is some issue or some concern about, you know, your cognitive abilities. So
What were the
Ant
animal
Mocha.
shapes?
Well, it's a lion, a hippo, and a camel.
Isn't that a rhino in the middle?
A rhino.
You don't even know a hippo from a
Sorry,
rhino. You got no acuity, son. You got no
I'm looking at
acuity.
it backwards. I'm looking at it backwards.
What does it mean if you don't know an elephant from a rhino?
An elephant.
So, yeah, so Don Lemon cannot see the rhino, and I know we don't got a good high res here, but it is, trust us, very clearly a rhino. Hippos do not have horns on them. That is one thing that a hippo does not have. But then even just a few minutes later, Cuomo couldn't remember that it was hippo that he mixed it up with, and then he said elephant, causing Don Lemon to be very confused.
So they currently have live on television failed the mental acuity test.
Yes. So we are going to try to do one better than the dumbest two anchors on TV. And, hopefully we don't embarrass ourselves or embarrass Dyer. But I'm going to administer to Dyer, live on air, a cognitive test. Let's see how he does, guys. Now, Dyer has never seen these before. So, Dyer, let's play Name This Animal. You can see my screen, right?
I can see it now.
Okay. All right. So, Dyer, can you name this animal?
It's a lion, of course.
Okay. All right. This one's a little bit harder. This one's a little bit harder. Can you name this animal?
Camel.
All right. And what about this one?
That's one hell of a wolf there.
Alrighty. And then how about this one?
A rhino.
Okay. And then last one. You ready? What's that?
Fuck.
Wrong. The correct answer was F-35.
Trash. That's what that is. It was a very expensive garbage. Fuck you.
All right, Dyer gets. We'll call that 90% there. Very proud of you.
Do you lose points for saying that's an animal?
What's that?
You've been losing points for saying that's an animal.
Hey, just maybe the answer is not the answer at all. You don't know. Hey,
that is correct.
Hey, maybe because you can't understand it, maybe you don't have any acuity, son. If you had full acuity, you would understand it. So the funny part about this, other than making fun of Dyer, it was funny because they were making fun of it, and so they're just kind of passively looking at it. The part of the joke for them was like, "This is so easy," and Trump's making such a big deal about it, which is true. But they're sitting there pretending that it's so easy that they can just do it. No big deal. They can just do this cold on air and not have attempted to make sure that they weren't going to make themselves look like idiots. And Don Lemon can right there hold it up. He could see that it's a rhino, and he says hippo. And Chris Cuomo doesn't miss a beat, calls him out on it, and then also screws up later on. And it's really just indicative of like how the media is all the time. We talk about this quite often when we catch it, that there's some, every week or so there's an instance where you really, really can see the media just all out lying and making stuff up because it's really easy to see in these like select instances. But deep down in these other instances where it's less easy to determine if it's a lie or not, it's something that's a little more cloudy, but that they're probably still lying. It's just harder to cover up. This is again another very clear instance where they're not lying, but they're absolute morons. You have two absolute morons who are making fun of a cognitive test and then fail it live on air. And they are like, I mean, the whole point of this is it's not supposed to like, it's not like an IQ test. It's basic, does your brain work kind of cognitive test. And it's just looking to see, like, can your eyes link to your brain an image, and can you perceive the reality of something on the page in front of you? And these guys literally just failed the part of the test that tests to see if your brain is capable of perceiving reality. And we just saw it. Now, do we think that this is a one-off, or do we think that that's probably status quo for how they always look at the news and look at reality?
I'm betting it's an example of how they don't really, their brains aren't functioning properly, and that means that anything they've viewed, is skewed through a malfunctioning brain. Then again, think about it though. They don't need to be smart to do their job. They can be hired easily and be successful in their career field without actually having good mental acuity, because all they need to do is uncritically read what someone else wrote for them and just be fully behind it, defend it to the death.
Yep. That's
all they're expected to do.
Orange Man bad. And then you couple with that the idea that you can't remember back any further than yesterday. Don't take into context what Don Lemon said in 2013. Don't take in context the reporting CNN did about pro masks and then against masks and then a pro mask again. The last few months, like, you don't look at any of that history. Just ever present now. There's no need to like relate any facts together. There's no need to be accurate in reality, because even if you're just fabricating it or you're perceiving it incorrectly, it doesn't matter. You just keep moving on. Orange Man bad, Orange Man bad, Orange Man bad. Yeah. All you got to do.
So it's a really relatively easy job. If someone has no skills and needs to get some work, they easily work from the mainstream media.
I mean, certainly they would be not capable of working at a zoo, but you can
right. I mean, come on, a hippo and a rhino don't look anything similar to each other. Not at all.
And the F-35 and an effective fighting vehicle don't look anything similar to each other either.
Because they're not the same thing.
Alrighty. So, anything else on that? Any other of Don Lemon's greatest hits you want to cover?
Oh, yeah. So, I mean, just, further evidence that this guy is an idiot. Y'all remember he theorized seriously that it was possible that a plane may have been sucked into a black hole, and that's why it went missing. That's the same Don Lemon.
Not his black hole.
Yeah, well, and speaking of black holes, he sexually assaulted a straight man in a bar once. That didn't make sense.
One of the most grotesque ways possible.
Like, that's not sexy even if he was gay.
Yeah, like, not for Don Lemon. Definitely not. Alrighty. Well, we could belabor this point, but I think it's it's a pretty simple story that these two guys are idiots. So I think that's not breaking news. We're just it's more of an update, more of a status update that they continue to be idiots. Nothing's changed.
I'm shocked and dismayed by this information.
Yes. Alrighty. Really did name the animal. There did. Yeah. All right. Okay, so our next story is a wonderful get woke, go broke story. The story is a simple one. You've heard the get woke, go broke narrative 100 times before. Get woke, go broke, do something to satisfy a microscopic group of people who don't even buy or use your product anyways, at the expense of alienating the majority of your actual customer base. While the story may sound familiar, the scale of the get woke, go broke story that we have for you today, the scale is simply off the charts.
Yes. In the wake of the George Floyd killing 2 months ago, Disney-owned network A&E canceled the show Live PD, along with several spin-off shows related to the franchise. Their reasoning was in apparent support of the anti-police movement on the left. That's pretty woke, but just how broke did they go?
About $300 million worth of broke, which is a lot
How
of broke.
How much of their total income is that actually?
It's a lot. It's a pretty significant amount. But that's not all that they gave up. So yeah. So now that we've had a full month worth of viewership tracking by Nielsen, they're the ones that track all your ratings numbers for TV and internet and all that kind of stuff. Almost got a job there once, and then they didn't want to hire me. I think that's a hate crime. Nielsen, so Nielsen was tracked. It was like their first full month that they've had to track since A&E canceled Live PD. And simply by the numbers, we can now see the full extent of the damage that was done by this decision. So overall viewership of A&E, like not just during the Live PD hours, but like overall, the whole channel dropped by 50%. Overall viewership, they dropped by 50%. In the all-important key demo, which is, I think, like 18 to like 45 or maybe 35, but it's like young people who are probably going to be spending money is the key demo. Like that's who advertisers most care about.
They'll spend more money on those people.
Yeah. So like your key demo advertisements will be of far higher value to the person selling the ad space than any other kind of demographic group. So in the key demo, A&E lost 55% of their key demo viewers that they were selling. So in 2019, A&E was able to sell $300 million worth of ads against that viewership of their key demo. And they sacrificed all of that on the altar of wokeness. The $300 million, that wasn't network wide. That was the $300 million that was only sold while Live PD was on. And they shut down all of Live PD. And now nobody's watching. So like that ad space can't just get repurposed. Like it's not going to be worth $300 million if you lost 55% of the people that were selling those ads to.
And the irony is, so if your goal was to reduce police brutality, then having a TV show where they have a bunch of cameras around those police officers, like throughout their entire day, ensuring that they either don't do things that are bad or they are held accountable for them, that seems like a far better idea. You'd want to have Live PD, right? But if your goal was just to be anti-police, which is what I think their actual goal was, then you just want to remove any positive representation of police. And that's what they did. But the funny thing is, like, you stated it. They had these social justice warriors already don't watch their show, and they never would watch their show, and are not likely to start watching their shows just because they remove Live PD and start running reruns of other shows that no one watches. Right? Like those other shows they have that make up the rest of their catalog, no one's really watching it. They got really piss poor viewership. Live PD was A&E.
Yeah, so they had Live PD, and then they had like I think it was like 3 or 5, like it was like 3 to 5 spinoffs. Like it was like a couple of spinoffs, and like over the course of like their programming day, like they had like 4 or 5 hours worth of stuff over the course of 24 hours that was gonna be Live PD, and like reruns. And so I mean, like they have like, I mean, they basically blew out at least a quarter of their schedule every day that they have to fill with something new, or they have to fill with reruns of stuff that no one was watching anyway.
They just added reruns. They had no backup plan. It's not like they had like, okay, I can imagine getting rid of a show that is mildly popular but kind of, run its course. But if before you remove it, you'd want to have something to replace it with that was new, and you do an ad campaign to pitch this new thing you're replacing it with so that you don't lose your viewers.
Yeah, so this is what's called a cash cow, where you have something that's very simple to produce, and it makes you a stupid amount of money, and you don't really have to do anything but sit there and watch it. and like all they had to do was sit there and watch it, and you just got a cool 300 million. That's more than $250 million.
Their primary actors, for lack of a better word, are paid by the state to do their job. Are going to do it regardless. You don't have to pay them.
Yeah, for real. They
What a waste.
They actually, it's funny because 300 million sounds like a lot, but the rioters in Minneapolis did $500 million of damage, so it's still not enough to pay for that.
Right.
Just while we're putting stuff in scale, yeah, I wonder. It just blows me away, like how this decision was made, because I can very easily see some idiot in the boardroom being like, well, they want us to delete this stuff, so like, what would happen if we did it? And then their finance guys would be like, you're giving up $300 million. It's a lot of scratch. That's probably not the best idea. Maybe we could, do something else, or maybe have an additional show that like talks about, focusing on like the good things of the community or reform or whatever. Like maybe we could, instead of destroying everything, which is the only thing that the left knows how to do, is destroy stuff. Maybe instead of destroying the show that's very popular, maybe we could make a new show that like addresses the issues and is a forum for discussion. I just came up with that literally just now. Like, this is what I just said was not in the script that we're reading. I just came up with that just now, and for some reason these people in a boardroom with $300 million on the line, the best they could think of is just, I don't know, cancel the show. Like there's nothing, there's no alternative. Like, it's so easy to think of literally anything else other than sacrificing $300 million.
That is retarded.
Yeah, and then you also, you got this idea of fiduciary responsibility. So A&E is not on its own a company, but it's owned by Disney. And, $250 million under Disney, I mean, geez, they probably lose that in the sheets or in the between the couch cushions and stuff. I bet you Mickey Mouse sneezes and it's just $300 million. But for normal people, that's quite a bit of money. And as a trend, this doesn't look good for Disney. That at the drop of a hat, any of their subsidiaries might just totally nuke themselves. If I was an investor in Disney, which I guess in theory I probably am, because Disney's a blue chip that's probably in everyone's 401k. If you have any kind of investment that isn't in a specific stock, there's like a really high chance you're invested in Disney. But certainly the bigger shareholders, like a Warren Buffett, should be suing the absolute fuck out of Disney right now, because there is a legal responsibility for publicly traded companies that they have a fiduciary duty. They have a financial responsibility to be good stewards of the money that's invested in them. So it's actually illegal for a company like Disney to make a decision that purposefully loses them money.
Or even if it's not on purpose, it's would reasonably be assumed to be irresponsible.
Yeah.
Right? Like, obviously there's risks that are taken in business where you try to do something that, you do a gamble to possibly make a bigger, make more income, but then it fails. That happens. That does not result in the CEO getting sued by the shareholders successfully. But if they do something that any reasonable person with what information they know they have available would expect to hurt the bottom line of the company, thus losing money for the shareholders, investors rather, they can take those people to court because they had a responsibility to properly manage that company.
Yeah, and just from like a precedent standard, like I said, I mean, like Disney has a lot of subsidiaries. I mean, Disney's like alongside like Time Warner and what is it? Is it Viacom or Vox maybe? Not regular Vox, but I think it might be Viacom, who own like the four companies that own literally everything you ever have consumed that's media. I would just say for like a precedent standpoint, the shareholders should sue Disney, or at least attempt suing them, so that it's at least understood that this is not okay for a Disney subsidiary to do, and Disney hopefully would nip that in the bud if someone like A&E ever tried that again. Certainly, all the executives at A&E, if they still have jobs, I don't understand who is running Disney. Mickey Mouse needs to get in there and just beat the absolute hell out of them, because that is just nuts that you would give up that much money. And actually, like you said, reasonable assumption that if you cancel the program that has $300 million worth of ads, there's a pretty reasonable assumption that you're not going to have those $300 million worth of ads anymore.
Right. So they should sue. By not suing, they're basically missing out on the money they are owed by him, right? Because they've suffered a loss, and they have the opportunity to recover that loss, because that loss was gained because of mismanagement of the company. If they don't, I mean, there is a statute of limitations on this stuff, so they could just cement their loss and also create a precedent where these kinds of things could happen in their company or other companies without the CEO having the worry of being sued for.
Yeah.
So they definitely should.
So now that A&E has the numbers have come out, and they surprised. So a lot of people were like, yeah, A&E is going to be losing viewership because they canceled their most popular show. Like, that was pretty much assumed. But basically everyone was surprised at how deep that cut went. 55% loss in the key demo, 50% loss of viewership across the entire channel. Like, that surprised a lot of people how deep that cut was. So I wonder if A&E, are they going to try to restart Live PD? And if they do, should Live PD return to the network if asked? Or should they try and find a home somewhere else?
I think that Live PD was a huge public relations positive for the police.
Yeah.
I think that the police, the way they looked at it wasn't as an economic agreement where they're trying to get any money out of this, because obviously that wasn't the point of it. It was to try to win hearts and minds, for lack of a better term. Yeah. So for them, they should. Even though A&E stabbed them in the back and was aiding the anti-police movement, bringing the show back would help combat the anti-police narrative. Because what Live PD did was it showed that police weren't going out there just randomly shooting people. It showed that there was a process, helped people understand the process, shows them how police will treat somebody when they act a certain way, and how they act, how the police will treat you if you act a different way. It was actually very educational and could help just tear down those false narratives.
Well, and that's kind of the point, right? That's why they had to get rid of it, was because it could help. It could eliminate some of those false narratives. It could increase public relations. It could show the public that the police are not bad guys. That's why they had to get rid of it. I mean, that's the same reason why they had to get rid of Paw Patrol, right? I mean, so like Live PD, like you're talking about like real people.
Wait. Is Paw Patrol gone?
No, but they wanted to. They wanted to, but it was for the same reason. Like, obviously Paw Patrol is not real, therefore it's got like no linkage to like the reality of cops, whereas like Live PD does. But just the idea that Paw Patrol would give a positive image to someone in a uniform, like, that had to go. It is the same thing with Live PD, but on an even more aggressive level, where it was like a lot of like adults see this and they see the cops as good guys and they root for it and they really love seeing justice served. And that's just, we cannot have that. Otherwise, if this show's out there, how is anyone going to believe it when Don Lemon says the cops are just only out there executing black people en masse? When they've got this show out there showing the other side of stuff.
Yeah, and also showing the ratio is not leaning towards black people. So there was that one episode of Paw Patrol where Chase kills a black lab, though. That was pretty racy.
Yeah. He was. Yeah. I mean, they did a lot of work to try and justify like why Chase shot him in the back 18 times, but
his paws were raised. Yeah.
He was running and his paws raised back to him at just 18, which was pretty crazy, because that means that Chase was walking around with one in the chamber, which is like dog. Like, that is, you looking for some serious business.
Yeah, I mean, he was a loose cannon all this time. I never would have known.
Absolutely.
But you know, the biggest one of the biggest audiences for Live PD was the military, because when you're on deployment, there's very few shows and stuff that's available to you in some locations. And one of the places I went to, one of some of the very few shows that were provided to us was A&E's Live PD, and that was the most popular thing. So it was running constantly in a bunch of people's barracks. So.
And it's great because it's not like it's not a show that has like a continuous story arc that you need to keep track of. You have these like quick little bite-sized stories that are kind of like action-packed and got the stuff that you're looking for. And so, you know, I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on over there. Like, you guys don't have a lot of time to sit down and like really go through like a narrative-heavy TV show that, you know, you're binging through. Like, but this would be like really good distraction for you.
Yeah, you got 10 minutes to eat some food, watch like 10 minutes of Live PD, probably go through like a couple of the stories, right?
Yeah. So.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Well, I know Live PD, like, as a movement, like Live PD Nation was like a big thing. Like, I mean, like, the viewership on this was like off the charts. I think they were saying there was like 2 million like viewers on average, which means some nights there was more viewers, and like that didn't include people watching on the rerun. I mean, like, this was easily like if Live PD viewers were a demographic in America, like they'd be like a significant percentage. Like, it would be like a noticeable group of people. So I know that there's been a lot of talk about trying to bring it back somewhere else. Like, the Live PD group was like looking for a new home, and I definitely think that they should not go back to A&E, even if A&E asks for it, unless of course Disney comes in. Or, well, sends Mickey Mouse in to go knock some heads and throw out all the A&E executives out in their ass and just totally reset that. That would be a condition that Live PD should go back for. But anything less than that, they need to find a new home that's not going to just light them on fire to satisfy the mob. Maybe they could start their own channel, to be honest. I mean, they really
easily could. They have the viewership of a channel, and they have enough material to run constantly.
And there might be a channel for sale relatively soon, given that A&E probably can't afford the premium of hanging on to that channel.
I don't know. Did A&E ever publish any false stories about Nicholas Sandman? That'd be the final nail.
No, but that doesn't mean you can't sue him for it. So, I don't know if Chase is a doggo of color. I mean, he's a German Shepherd. No, because he's a German Shepherd, so he's probably like a Nazi. He probably has like Nazi ancestry. Like, there's like a 90% chance that like Chase's grandpa was like barking around Auschwitz.
You know that picture of the dog that was with Hitler? That was his grandfather.
You know, that's actually funny, because it's actually like, it's not even a joke, but like that's a thing, is people don't like German Shepherds because they're German, and they're like, that's a racist dog. All right, guys. Also, Triumvirate says maybe Direwolf Media should start making children's movies to compete. Chibi Dyer would be the new Mickey Mouse. I actually have Chibi Dyer up because I had to go through my archive of Dyer images for the animal test. So I do have a copy of Chibi Dyer. I could bring that up later.
Sure.
Should Dyer loves all this?
The original one that I put up, like I did in MS Paint. That one.
I've got that one. Let me pull them up here.
That was so terrible. But when I took it away, people said they missed it. I'm like, that took me 5 minutes. It was terrible.
It was like perfectly terrible though. Like, it was the perfect amount of not trying, and then like it's adorable. And then we had we'll do like the evolution of Dyer here. Then we had the wolf with the, I don't know why he's got a party hat on.
Why wouldn't you party hat on?
You like
I'm a party animal.
You constructed a wolf like in a suit. It's like ridiculous thing. Then we had this thing, which was so adorable. I mean, oh my god, it was the most adorable thing I've ever seen. which I think is why you didn't have it anymore. It was also so cute when it talked with you too, because you had like a face rig for it.
I do have a face rig for it.
And then we the classic Gruff Wolf here. So
I like that one a lot.
Yeah, badass. Alrighty, well, I think this was a story about Live PD that turned into a story about Dyer. Alrighty, well, that was our first. Is that 3 stories or is that 2 stories? Oh no, we got the.
We're on C now.
There we go. C.
Charlie.
What's C for?
Charlie.
C is for Covington
Exploding
update.
stuff.
I think we're on different pages.
Okay.
So
we're both right.
Yes. C is for Covington update. So today, the Washington Post is the latest news organization to settle a defamation lawsuit launched by the Covington Catholic High School kids, mainly Nicholas Sandmann, over the media's lies and demonization that occurred. Do you go through the history of this, or should I do a recap on the history?
We kind of do. Just recap after your paragraphs is done.
Okay. Let's see here. So the Washington Post initially reported that, and for some time after the reports were shown to be false, that Sandmann was being the aggressor in the viral confrontation with Native American activist Nathan Phillips, who's a piece of shit. As we all know, the reality was that the Covington Catholic kids have been the victims of a racist harassment campaign from the Black Hebrew Israelites. And it was, in fact, Nathan Phillips and his activist group of adult activists, well-written sentence, who had approached and harassed the Covington kids. Video that was publicly available at the time of the initial reports showed that it was, in fact, the activists that had made the racial slurs towards the kids, and it was the kids that were very, very adultly, very maturely handling the situation and ignoring them.
Yes. So initially, they were being harassed by the Black Hebrew Israelites that were attacking them for being white and also attacking their black friends for being friends with white people. And they're very, very racist. So their response to that was to start doing school chants and to kind of drown out the racists that were trying to mock them. And then while they're doing that, Nathan Phillips brought his group up to the stationary group of students and got in their face trying to make them move. And the students, simply confused about what's going on, just didn't move. They were calm, cool, and collected. They were the only adults in the situation. Definitely not all the people who then went on to demonize them and criticize them and dox them. Those were not people. Those people were not acting like adults either. So the Covington kids were subject to continuous death threats, harassments, at both their home and their schools. They had tried to get them removed from their school. The people that were harassing them were trying to get the schools to kick them out, and they were just causing these students to be in constant fear of going out in public because of all the death threats. Their only crime was that they had attended a pro-life rally and that they had supported Trump. For those crimes, they were smeared as evil Nazis. Sandmann and his lawyers filed a $250 million lawsuit against many media companies and individuals that had slandered them and slandered him and his classmates. Yesterday, on Sandmann's 18th birthday, no less, the Washington Post settled the lawsuit for an unknown amount of money. The Washington Post is the second media company to settle with Sandmann. The first company was, I believe, CNN.
Rightfully so. Sandmann has outstanding cases that remain active against ABC, CBS, The Guardian, MSNBC, NBC, Huffington Post, NPR, Gannett, and a total of 13 other cases, all of which are being financed by CNN. Thank you, CNN. And will now also be financed by the Washington Post. Thank you, Washington Post. And thank you all the rest of them that will continue to finance the cases against each other. Based on... What's that?
I think the person who's probably the happiest in all of this is the lawyer. Because the lawyer is a good lawyer, a high-priced lawyer, who's done a lot of other good cases. but is being paid very handsomely for this.
Well,
And
he
each
did. It was kind of an
victory
investment because
ensures-
I think he started off saying like we're going to do this pro bono to like you because I think he
It
was pissed
was.
about it too.
Yeah, well, so I'm not degrading him, right? It was pro bono first because he saw these were open and shut cases. They're cases that he could easily win, but with each win, he's guaranteeing himself a paycheck of quite a bit of money.
Absolutely, and go ahead.
He deserves it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and with this level of money too, I mean, it's like, what are you going to do with $250 million other than just nothing for the rest of your life? But I mean, you can take a lot off the top of that as your lawyer, and the kids here, I guarantee you, they barely care about any of the money after the first million. It's just like justice being served. Like, bleed these stupid media agencies for as much as they are worth. Absolutely. So, based on the momentum so far, it seems like they may win most, if not all, the cases, and each previous case that they win sets precedent for the next case. So it just gets easier and easier with time. We don't know how much money each company is settling for. We know it probably won't be the maximum of $250 million that Sandman sued for. However, even if they only took 10% of that amount, it would be painful for these companies, hopefully painful enough to make them think twice before trying to destroy innocent Americans and children.
Yes. So I think that they actually will to get more than 10%, a sizable percentage of what they're requesting, because I'm guessing that the media companies are going to make some sort of deal that would prevent what comes up in discovery from being released.
Yeah.
Because that's why they're settling. They don't want a full court case because then all their dirty laundry will be laid bare. So they are willing to pay a lot of money to avoid the embarrassment of their internal emails and communications being released.
It'd be a shame if that stuff got leaked out afterwards, though. It's information security is so, it's so loose these days. You just never know what's going to happen. There's always hacks and people wiping servers. It'd be
probably the
shame
Russians.
if there was some kind of accident that WikiLeaks got a hold of that discovery or something.
It's still very possible. But I'm sure that they would have paid a lot of money to try to avoid that happening. Now, one thing that was funny, correct me if I'm wrong, didn't Washington Post in their initially they tried to have their case thrown out. And their argument for that was that they weren't actually reporting the news.
I think it was them.
It was Washington Post for sure. I just don't remember exactly the logic of their argument, but I remember the conclusion was that they weren't guilty because
the logic was the logic was that logic from their point of view was they were arguing that all of their news is opinion. None of it is actually news. Therefore, it's covered under the First Amendment, and it's not libel or slander because it's just their opinion. It's not being reported as fact, even though it was being reported as fact.
Yeah, there's we don't state facts, we only state opinions, thus we are not guilty. Interesting. So the Washington Post does not produce news, only opinions. Noted.
And no one was surprised.
Anyways, I think it's time for me to release that chest, huh?
Oh, yeah, hell yeah. All right, if you guys are over on YouTube, we should probably hang out on YouTube for the rest of the night because I don't think we have... we only got a couple of stories, and we were kind of late on the show. We'll hang out on YouTube today, but do still encourage you, go over to dlive.tv/direwolf. That's a great place to watch us. That is the chat that we are most frequently watching. And you get a lot of other fun stuff in the chat that you can't get on YouTube. And then there's also, what Dyer's doing right now, is there is a special token currency on DLive. DLive likes to pretend that it's crypto, but it's really not. Either way, you can have a chance to get some of that money, those tokens when Dyer opens up the chest. Because if you're interacting in chat, there's kind of like a lottery system. The more you interact in chat, the more likely you are to get some of those tokens when Dyer opens up the mystery chest. So, you opening it up?
Done.
All right.
Howie and Triumvirate won.
Well, good job, Howie. And Triumvirate, of course.
All right, let's do the next story.
Next story we got. Oh, this one's fun. So, Trump.
The other ones weren't fun, but this one is.
Yeah, for sure. Trump uses newfound legislative power of the presidency. It goes Super Saiyan. Awesome. All right. If the Constitution was a dig site, then the Supreme Court would be archaeologists. Slowly and methodically, they dig into it, clearing away the plain English text on the surface to find new and exciting discoveries buried below. These new and exciting things that they found within the Constitution include things like income tax, privately murdering babies, and the infringement of arms bearing. But really, they were there the whole time, is what the Supreme Court tells us, buried within the Constitution by the Founding Fathers, just waiting to be discovered by enterprising young Tomb Raiders like them. Like scantily clad Lara Croft, the Supreme Court recently discovered another ancient artifact buried deep within the Constitution for almost 250 years, and no one even knew it was there.
Yeah, abortion wasn't even a word when the Constitution was written. And how it's a right now is confusing. Anyway, so the discovery was of a super double secret stealth-colored power that allows the president to legislate with no oversight. Now, while the idiot layperson might have mistakenly thought that the power to legislate lies only with Congress, idiots. The Supreme Court is a lot smarter than you, pleb. And according to them, the Founding Fathers' true intention, rather than the division of powers, was designing the presidency was to create a kingship that could create law by decree. Obviously, they ran away from a king to then establish a new king. Duh! The discovery was made a few weeks ago when Trump attempted to reverse the unconstitutional DACA program created by Obama through another decree. DACA is essentially an entire immigration naturalization program that was completely fabricated within Obama's executive branch. It even overrode law already legislated by Congress. Thus, it had not only the weight of law, it was more powerful, more effective than law. But because it had been created by an executive order, it had long been theorized it could also be uncreated by an executive order as well. It's like fighting fire with fire, right? It's the unlimited power of the presidency could only be eliminated by the unlimited power of the presidency.
Absolutely.
Theoretically.
So when Trump tried to do this a few weeks ago, the Supreme Court said that even though DACA was unconstitutional, Trump could not undo it with an executive order.
That doesn't make sense!
This leaves us with the fascinating legal theory that anything created by the president through executive order, even if it goes against existing law, cannot be undone by subsequent presidents using executive orders. While losing on DACA was very disappointing, Trump has some plans for these newfound legislative superpowers the Supreme Court just gave him.
So you realize that means that these executive orders from the president are more powerful than existing laws, and also are more powerful than or cannot be canceled out by themselves.
Yeah.
That is insane.
It's like basically passing constitutional amendments, is nearly what it is. It's you can add stuff to the list, but you can't take it back off.
So I guess we have to run an experiment and have a constitutional convention and try amending the Constitution, and then see if that finally defeats executive order. Is it president dependent? Is it like anything that was put forward by Obama is more invincible than something put forward by Trump? Because it seems like Trump's made a lot of decrees about immigration that have been immediately challenged in the court as being unconstitutional and were blocked by said courts. It's really weird how Trump can make decrees about, not allowing travel from a certain country or not allowing immigration.
It's almost like the president doesn't have an unlimited power to legislate, but the Supreme Court does. Almost.
Yeah, it's almost like they're picking and choosing and creating law from the bench.
Almost.
And it's actually not the. It's almost like that.
Yeah.
And almost like an incredibly naked double standard that, like, it's even the same topic. It is. They're both. We had Trump, both Obama and Trump, making executive orders based on immigration policy about who can or cannot be in the country. Both of them did it. But Obama's is invincible, and Trump's is challenged constantly and defeated. And Obama's was more of an overhaul to our existing program, our existing system, than Trump's was.
Yeah.
Insane.
Well, so what is Trump going to do with his newfound superpowers, Dyer?
Thank you. So first on the list, and the focus of this segment is whether or not illegal aliens should be included in the census for purposes of apportioning congressional seats to the many states. Earlier this week, Trump released an executive order which basically has it in its title the memorandum on excluding illegal aliens from the apportionment based following the 2020 census. Here are some of the highlights from that order.
All right, so these are direct quotes out of Trump's executive order. So we're really kind of through the highlights. So he first kind of explains why he thinks he can run this executive order. So, quote, the Congress has provided that it is the president's personal transmittal of the report to Congress that settles the apportionment of representatives among the states. And the president's discretion to settle the apportionment is more than ceremonial or ministerial. It is essential to the integrity of the process. So basically what he's saying is the way the Constitution explains the census and the way that Congress has previously legislated regulations around the census, it is the office of the president and the president himself who makes the final determination as to how the census should be conducted, as long as it's within the scope outlined by the Constitution, which all the things that Trump said were within those outlines. All the things that he said he wants to do with who he's going to count, who he doesn't want to count, that's all been previously discussed and decided by previous Congresses. And so really the Supreme Court has no business in making a decision over this because it's outside the scope of what their job responsibilities are, and Congress doesn't have the ability to do anything about how Trump counts this, because that was part of the division of labor amongst the branches, was that the executive counts it and then Congress has to deal with it. It wasn't that Congress also got to count it. That was part of the division of the branches. So we also had again, more justification. Quote, for example, aliens who are temporarily in the United States, such as for business or tourism and certain foreign diplomatic personnel, are persons who have been excluded from the apportionment base in past censuses. So he's saying, there's precedent that, it doesn't make sense that we would just count, if your in-laws from London are here for the weekend when you happen to get your census papers, like, you don't write them down as part of your household. If there's somebody on vacation in New York from like Hong Kong, you don't include them on New York census. That doesn't make sense. Like, that's just...
You don't do that for other states either. If you're a resident of California, you don't put yourself on the New York census just because you're traveling there for a week.
Yeah. In the most generous way to describe illegal aliens is foreigners here on vacation, because they're not citizens. So it would be charitable to describe them as foreigners here on vacation. And Trump's explaining that there is precedent that foreigners here on vacation are obviously not meant to be counted for the purpose of apportioning congressional representation to the many states. That would be idiotic on its face. I don't know why this has to be a discussion.
Because politics, and Trump is evil, obviously, is why.
He's Orange Super Saiyan bad. Do you want to read this part?
Sure. So many of these aliens entered the country illegally in the first place, increasing congressional representation based on the presence of aliens who are not in a lawful immigration status would also create perverse incentives encouraging violations of federal law. It would also create a lot of incentive for affecting our politics. Think about it. If you create the standard that anyone who is not a citizen can come across our border and then vote in our can affect the votes in Congress, how many people are apportioned to different states, then if someone wanted to screw with our electoral system, they could have a lot of illegal aliens be pushed into our country, into certain states, just to sway power towards one party or another.
And why do you even have to be in the United States to begin with if just being a foreigner and declaring that you want to take part in the census is enough to decide congressional representation? Like, what is to stop, say the entire population of Wuhan, the Chinese government directing them to declare residency in South Dakota? Like, there's nothing preventing that from happening. It would be strange if you had the standard that it was lawful for undocumented residents to be considered part of the apportionment for representing actual citizens. It would be strange if you could do that and then you had to explain like why it's not okay if they're not actually here. Why couldn't someone from China who's a Chinese citizen, why couldn't they be counted in the South Dakota census? Like, it would be weird to make that determination. Weirder than Trump saying, it makes obvious sense that illegal aliens are not meant to be part of what the Congress is being apportioned on.
Right.
So states adopting policies that encourage illegal aliens to enter this country and that hobble federal efforts to enforce immigration laws passed by Congress should not be rewarded with greater representation in the House of Representatives. Current estimates suggest that one state is home to more than 2.2 million illegal aliens, constituting more than 6% of that state's entire population. Including these aliens in the population of that state for the purpose of apportionment could result in the allocation of 2 or 3 more congressional seats that would otherwise be allocated to other states. I wonder which state he is talking about. Also,
California.
Dyer, your fan is a little on your mic.
Oh, okay.
You made it worse.
Better?
Now it's better. It was worse for a minute.
You're better.
Well, thank you. So this is Trump's new executive order. Given the start of this segment, discussing this newfound legislative power that the president has, that the Supreme Court just gave him, this should have the force of law, and it should have the force of law in all future censuses. So the 2030 census, it should also remain illegal based off Trump legislating this through executive order. It should remain in 2030, 2040, on and on and on. It should be from now on until the end of the union illegal to count illegal aliens. Which, so if that is the case, then the end of the union will take a lot longer to come around.
Yeah. Another interesting thing was that Trump had tried and failed to get the immigration question put onto the census. So you wouldn't be able from the census alone to know who is responding is actually an illegal alien or not. But he's also working on getting a federal program that would do a separate count from the census, which is funny. And that count would actually be able to be used for the apportionment to find out how many people to remove from the census.
Yeah, and so that goes into the part earlier where it said, the president's discretion to settle the apportionment is more than ceremonial. It is essential to the integrity of the process. So it is not up to Congress how the count is conducted. It's not up to them what offices Trump uses or creates, or even the format of the ballot. It is entirely up to the presidency how to conduct the census. Congress merely receives the report and acts on it. They do not have any say in how that report is created.
Right.
Neither does the Supreme Court.
The official census may not actually end up being what's used to determine who gets how many seats from the apportionment, which is interesting. It'd be a big difference, though. In the end, it's not a different in principle, right? Because he has the right in his office to manage the census.
Well, so the current census, like the form, isn't part of the Constitution. That's just like the chosen method for enacting that constitutional mandate. So exactly. Trump having a different way of doing that doesn't, like, it's not more or less constitutional. It's just like there was one method for doing it. He's came up with another method. They're both equally valid under the Constitution,
which is what I'm getting
doesn't recommend.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I'm getting at. But that the left is going to say what he's doing is unconstitutional, even though it's not, because it's not their approved census form, right?
Yep.
They want to control what questions are on said census, and they just had a legal battle over what is allowed to be on the census. So they're going to say that his census is not legitimate, and there will be a battle over, particularly I'm sure states like California, saying that what he's doing is an abuse of power. I know this is going to happen, but it's important for our audience to realize that it's his prerogative, his authority to run the census, and Congress does not determine what the census is supposed to look like, and no matter what they say, it's his responsibility to run it.
You know, I make this real easy. Republicans got to sweep Congress, and Trump's got to get reelected president, and then we get to January, and this is not contested. If, however, the Democrats retain foothold in Congress, or God forbid, get both chambers, or God forbid, get all three branches, we'll be in some. This will be hotly contested. They'll probably just make up a census and apportion off of that, and somehow California will end up with 100 representatives.
Yeah, if Trump is elected, the left, whether they have any degree of power or not, they will try the best they can to sink this country. There'll be lots of riots. There'll be lots of violence. They will say everything Trump has will do is wrong, evil, unconstitutional, and they will fight him to make sure that there is no progress, and they will burn this country to the ground to spite him.
Well, they'll do that anyways.
If he loses, them doing their very best to follow their principles to better the country, if that's even what they want, will destroy the country anyways. Because they want stuff.
Goal. Their goal is not to fix anything.
Work.
Their goal is to tear stuff down.
Yeah, but even if you assume they had like a good motives, they got everything they wanted, it would destroy our country.
Well, because what they want is the destruction of the country.
Exactly.
Like they don't have any constructive goals.
But they'll try to tell you they do. They're like, oh, we're just trying to save the environment. It sounds like a positive, but really what they're doing is they're trying to destroy all industry and make us starve to death. Oh, and also
dare you
destroy our power grid, remove our ability to, make it so there's no way for us to actually have trucking companies anymore. Just destroy our economy entirely. They will destroy our economy now over COVID to hurt Trump. What would they not do to this country, right?
Yes. So this is obviously an attempt by Trump to stop the Democrats from allowing foreigners to interfere in the election. Obviously, this is a little bit more widespread than just the president, or wider scope than just the presidential election. This is literally determining which Congress seats go to which states, And the Democrats are trying their best to have foreign interference in that process by trying to have illegal immigrants counted in that. And it's just funny because, like, at every turn, the Democrats try to have foreign interference, and then they say it's the Republicans doing it. And it's like, it's actually you guys who got the Russian piss dossier. It's actually you guys that are using foreign slave labor to interfere with the apportionment and the census. It's not Trump. It's not the Republicans.
It was you guys having affecting the politics in Ukraine and affecting who's fired.
Yeah, all your congressmen are the ones that are cozy with China.
Yeah. It's you guys that are bought and paid for by Russia and China. You try to say that the conservatives and more just Trump that's controlled by them. They follow that principle of always accuse your opponent of what you're actually doing.
Well, I think they made that principle. I think it came from them. Alrighty.
It came from the rules for radicals. Rules for radicals.
That's them. Alrighty. Well, ready for our next story?
Hell yeah.
Alrighty. What is Operation Legend? Operation Legend is not Operation Diligent Valor. Operation Legend is not Diligent Valor, and that bears repeating as the legacy media cannot seem to get it through their thick heads that these are two different things. Similar to how Don Lemon can't figure out that, a hippo is not a rhino.
So Operation Legend is named after 4-year-old Legend. Oh, geez, Taliaferro.
Sure.
Who was shot and killed while he slept early in the morning on June 29th in Kansas City. The latest in a string of violence to plague Kansas City in recent weeks. Kansas City has already reached 100 homicides this year, a 40% increase from the previous year.
As part of Operation Legend, Attorney General Barr directed federal agents from the FBI, U.S. Marshals, DEA, and ATF to surge resources to Kansas City. In the coming weeks, in the previous few weeks, this happened about a month ago, I believe. I think it was mid-July when they did this. And it was meant to help state and local officials fight the surge in violent crime. They were working alongside state and local enforcement agencies, and the Department of Justice assets that were sent out there included over 100 FBI agents, U.S. Marshals, DEA agents, and ATF agents. Their first 2 weeks of operations netted 200 arrests. Awesome.
That's good. Early this week, Trump expanded the operation to include Albuquerque, Chicago, Baltimore, Philadelphia, Cleveland, Detroit, and Milwaukee. Each of these cities has seen similar massive spikes in crime and murder.
In a statement, Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot, who's also the most hideous person in politics,
stated, a legitimate troll, by the way,
stated that all federal resources are only to be used to investigate crime, not to perform arrests, and that she will be pursuing all legal options to protect Chicago's murderers if the feds deviate from that agreement.
She has no legal options. They have jurisdiction on federal crime to arrest people.
Yeah.
So if they commit a federal crime, they can arrest them. There is no legal options. That's it.
Yeah, and I based off what they did in Kansas, I don't think that they're just going to go to Chicago and investigate stuff. I think that they're probably going to be arresting people. And one of the reasons why this needs to be done is because you have places, well, Chicago too, but New York kind of industrialized it. You're seeing this in a lot of other liberal cities where the prosecutors are just re-releasing criminals back out in the street. They're refusing to prosecute. You're seeing that with the riots. You're seeing that in New York with their bail reform, their quote-unquote bail reform. And then Chicago as well, they certainly have some problems with their prosecutor, Kim Foxx, just letting bad people go because she was bought and paid for by, well, Kim Fox was bought and paid for by the Obamas and the Clintons. Some of the other cities have prosecutors that were bought and paid for by George Soros and his many organizations. But that's one of the reasons why the feds have to go in there to actually solve the crime, because the feds can actually arrest them, and the federal prosecutors are not just going to re-release these people back onto the streets. So that, like, if the state and local legal apparatus wasn't so thoroughly corrupt to defend literal murderers, maybe the feds wouldn't have to come in, because the state and local governments could be handling this themselves. But their prosecutors just absolutely refuse to do anything. And I mean, you've got Chicagoans, like, it is triple digits every single week. Is triple digits people getting shot, double digits people getting killed. I mean, it's every week you've got 20 plus deaths in Chicago and like 150 shootings. It is just off the charts.
The state attorney is like a extra check on the legal systems in case there is officers that are making abusive arresting people and being abusive, abusing their power and their ability to arrest people, right? So arresting people for petty crimes that they don't need to be arrested for, or arresting people for things they didn't actually do. And so an extra check on that part of the legal system is to have the state attorney to have the ability to just not prosecute. That's something that actually could be used for good, right?
Yeah.
And that's why the state attorney in most states, 43 states, are actually elected, right? Mm-hmm. So that we can make sure that the legal system is being held accountable, and that people that are not guilty are not being put through the legal system, right?
Yeah.
Now, but it also means that the state attorneys that are just releasing violent criminals back on the streets was elected by those communities. And if they want this to stop, if they want to not have violent criminals not being held accountable for their actions, it comes back to know who you're voting for. I also know that most people don't have any clue about the state attorneys they tend to vote for, because most people don't spend any time to actually look into the rest of the people on the ticket. They might care about the president, but everyone else who, on that ticket, they're like, you got an R or you got a D, I'm just going to vote for you. No, this is really, look what's happening here. This one job that most people don't care about is super fucking important. They can completely make, the riots are continuing because those who are arrested are being released again.
Yeah.
What is the point? Why would the police even arrest anybody if they know they're just going to be released again? That's why they're demoralized. On top of everything else, there's literally no point in arresting them at the state level. It only is effective if they're arrested at the federal level, because they're the only ones actually willing to prosecute.
Yeah, and well, we've talked about this before. Is one of the problems is my city, your city. We don't really have a gang violence problem in our cities. Our cops are generally pretty much good old boys. You got these big cities though, where they have these absolutely idiotic policies, these essentially criminal prosecutors, and state prosecutors are just letting criminals go, and they have relatively corrupt police systems. And it's, well, what are we supposed to do about that? We've talked about this before. Is we live in a republic with local governance. I can't go do anything. I can't vote. I can talk about how it's stupid. I hope someone in New York that can vote is listening to us. Maybe that's about all that I can do. I can't go to New York and vote on stuff. I can't help them out of that situation. I can't go to Chicago and vote out their mayor because she's an idiot. I don't live there. I can't do that. That's not how our system works.
Is money and fairy tales of eternal economic growth. How dare you?
Slowpoke gave us $2. Thank you very much, Slowpoke. Chicago is murder capital of America. So the soldiers will feel like they are back in Afghanistan over there. I think it's a little worse in Afghanistan.
I think that more people are dying there than are dying in Afghanistan.
Well, at least in Afghanistan, you have like a base of operations. Like in Chicago, it's just 360 combat. Like you just
and it is also like your own countrymen are trying to kill you rather than like the enemy that you is clearly defined.
Yeah. So, but what I was saying was that we don't have, if you don't live there, you don't have any power to enact change there. Only the people that live there have the power to enact change there. And if they want to keep electing stuff, again, the reason why they have these awful mayors, these awful prosecutors, these awful police departments is they voted for it. This didn't just these people that live in Chicago, they didn't just appear there 5 minutes ago. They've been living there for generations and voting for this crap for 60 years. It is absolutely a problem that they made themselves. Now, I can talk about how stupid they are for doing that, but there's not much I can do about that. And there's really no right of the federal government to come in and say, okay, we are deposing the mayor, we are pulling these prosecutors out, unless they're actually violating federal law. You can't really do anything about these people electing absolute morons to lead them. But what you can do is there is federal law. Murder against federal law, gang activity against federal law. There is things going on in these cities that are against federal law, and they're also against city and state law. But if the city and state law don't want to do anything about it, the federal government absolutely has jurisdiction to go take care of those crimes, and that's about the best that we can hope for. If those people want to keep electing absolute idiots to allow murderers to just kill their children every few days, that's what they're voting for. If they want to keep doing that, I guess more power to them. But the best that we can do is send in federal agents to go enforce federal law, and at best we can kind of protect these people from themselves. That's the absolute best we can do, and that's what Trump's doing. And we lost Dyer.
I'm not used to me, no. Yeah, I've said it many times before. Our country, our freedoms, our Constitution is always just one generation from being gone, because it requires an active involvement from every generation to maintain it, right? If you just look at Portland and you see these people have lost. They don't know the principles from which their country was originally founded. If they did, they wouldn't be on the streets writing or voting for people like these that are allowing these things to happen. They have lost the knowledge of why our country was made and what principles it was based on. And because of that, if the rest of the country went the way of Portland, then we would have no country. America wouldn't exist in the same way anymore.
Yeah.
You can always lose your freedoms. You can always have a dictator take over a democracy, and they can take it over from a vote through a democratic process. The democratic process allows you to be stupid, allows you to give up your freedoms if you want to.
Yeah, we gift to you a republic if you can keep it, and
right.
That's one of the problems with this form of government is it has the ability to undo itself.
Freedom has a responsibility assigned to it. If freedom is, for you to maintain it, requires you to have a responsibility to maintain it. So hopefully we look at Portland and we learn from it and we make sure we don't follow down those footsteps. Hopefully we start teaching people history again in the schools so we don't keep creating more morons who will end up following the way of Antifa and BLM.
Yeah. But, again, it is I suppose it's the right of the people of Chicago and all these other cities to be rock bottom morons electing these sort of people that just allow murderers to run through the streets and kill their children. That is up to them. But as an American and this being part of my country, I don't like seeing that. And again, no. I'd like to see it stop, but I just don't have any power to vote for new people in Chicago. So the bare minimum that can be done is the federal government can send in federal agents to enforce federal law. And that is the best we can do. Again, that's what Trump's doing. Love it. Keep it going. If that's what we have to do, that's what we have to do.
Yep, agreed.
Alrighty.
Next turn.
Yep. All right. The identified federal agents who remain unidentified as Trump's Gestapo, which they were identified as, update. A federal judge on Friday denied a request by Oregon's attorney General to restrict tactics used by unidentified officers identified as federal officers in Portland, finding that the state lacked legal standing and presented scant evidence to support allegations that the officers were illegally snatching people off the streets. In fact, the only evidence provided that unidentified federal agents who were identified as federal agents had been illegally snatching the peaceful protesters that were identified as rioters off the streets were the two viral videos that circulated. Those two videos, in fact, did show federal agents who were identifiable that wore identifiable agency markings and had the words police and their badge numbers visible on their uniforms. They also were not illegally snatching people. They were legally snatching people. And yes, it wasn't to an unmarked car, but what's wrong with that?
Yeah, police have unmarked cars in every state.
Yeah,
is not a tactic that's against the law. Now, Lori Lightfoot said that she was going to do everything in her power to stop the federal police. This judge kind of, ruled this way, saying that the state had no standing because the state has no jurisdiction on limiting or determining the enforcement of federal police enforcing federal law. They have no jurisdiction. They have no legal claim to it.
Oh my God.
They cannot arrest them or impede them. And if they do, they are actually committing a crime. So the police officer trying to arrest a federal agent would be thus arrested for a crime, and anyone who directed them to do it could also be arrested for a crime. So Lori Lightfoot, I kind of want you to try, because I'd like you to see what that gets you. Now, as you can see in the picture, this federal agent is clearly wearing a agency marking patch saying what he belongs to, and then his badge number.
What does he got? What kind of gun is that? Is it like one of those rifle pistols?
It
looks like an AR. They just lopped the front of it off. It's like a sawed-off AR.
I actually can't tell from this angle.
I think it's one of those pistol things, like a pistol rifle thing.
Maybe. I don't want to guess and be wrong.
Strange. It's very strange.
Maybe
it's some kind of maybe it's got pepper balls or something, and it just looks weird from this angle.
Well, a lot of them were not using real rifles.
That's why I'm trying to figure out what it is.
Yeah. So then another thing that they touched on was the judge said in this case that specified that the officers, the federal agents, did not have just cause for arresting the individuals that they had detained. Now, some individuals thought this was a weird omission from the judge, who just said that the state had no standing in telling the federal agents on how to enforce federal law. It's actually not, because the part of that conversation that's missing, that a lot of the mainstream media are going to gloss over, is the people that were being detained were not being arrested. Those are two very different things. You may detain someone in states, depending on what state, for a few hours. In some states, it's a maximum of 4 hours. You can hold someone for questioning. And you can hold someone for questioning at based on a lower standard of evidence. It is a reasonable suspicion that they were involved in a crime. Suspicion. That is pretty broad. You can only arrest someone if you have just cause, meaning there is evidence that they have committed a crime. So they detain these individuals for an hour, and in that hour they questioned them and released them because there was no evidence that they committed a crime. So
how dare
the media? I know it might be something that a lot of people don't. Of those terms. So the media has been smearing the federal agents and Trump for their enforcement a lot. And one such example of many examples was the New York Times, who wrote, peaceful a video that shows that President Trump's deployment ignited chaos.
I think you probably weren't being able to be heard for like the last 30 seconds. I had a cable issue that massively disrupted audio. Also, apologies if anybody heard a very loud screeching sound. I know my mic sometimes does that when it loses connection. Yeah, you just want to roll back the clock 20 seconds?
What was the last thing I said 20 seconds ago?
I don't know. I couldn't hear you because my mic was gone.
All right, so
pulled my headphones out too.
The media has been smearing the federal agents and Trump a lot recently, and they one such example of many examples is the New York Times, who wrote, "Peaceful protests were already happening for weeks when federal officers arrived on July 4th," and they said that their video shows how President Trump's deployment ignited the chaos. Now, that is obviously false. We're going to show the video that they're talking about. But what they're leaving out is that these rioters had already destroyed hundreds of businesses, cars, and attacked people, pulled them out of their vehicles. People have died in these riots. Someone died in a store that was burned down and had died 40 days ago.
Yeah, but he died peacefully.
These riots were never peaceful. They have been dangerous and destructive for the last 50 plus days. So, and this existed prior to the federal agents arriving. In fact, in the federal agents' explanation for why they started the enforcement actions, they listed a many-page document full of examples of federal facilities being damaged or destroyed by these very same rioters, and that was the justification for now protecting federal facilities. The federal agents coming was a response to chaos and violence. They did not come because there was peace and then there was violence. Let's watch the video.
Federal officers in military gear, clouds of tear gas, crowd control munitions, and locals who want those officers gone.
What are you guys protecting? Get the out of our city!
In just over a week, the chaotic scenes in Portland grabbed the nation's attention and raised questions about whether the US government is exceeding its authority and violating civil rights. The officers came because of an executive order signed by President Trump in late June to protect federal property from destruction.
If we didn't take a stand in Portland, we've arrested many of these leaders. If we didn't take that stand, right now you would have a problem like, they were going to lose Portland.
So what's going on here? And what methods are the officers using to protect federal
Look at that part of the video right there.
Which part?
That them tearing down those fences, them attacking that facility, that's what precedes the federal agents firing tear gas or the rubber bullets or whatever, or the pepper bullets, right?
Yeah.
They show the actions of the agents, right? Those federal officers, and they don't show what preceded those actions. They are not just going out and shooting those pepper balls at protesters. The rioters have broken into the facility. They are damaging property. They are attacking federal officers, and then they are responding. And then they show video of the response of them trying to back them up and disperse the violent mob. And they say that is what's causing the violence. No, it is a response to the violence. And we have a great example of that because during the day, generally, there are some protests that have no violence in the same location recently. But then, as it gets later in the day, those protesters start to riot. It's been a cycle of going back and forth day and night for the last few weeks, right?
And there's some discussion from people who live in the area, and they're so exhausted, just continuous rioting. They're up all night. They're scared for their neighborhoods. Their places of work are just totally destroyed in the morning. Like, it is just, it is like living in Aleppo.
people have lost their jobs and all their savings they put into their businesses. The community is suffering because of these riots. But the example I was pointing out was when the rioters aren't actively rioting, there is no tear gas. But when they do riot, when they do attack, there is tear gas. And there's a great example of this. Just today or yesterday, there was a black man who was at the same federal building, and he got in front of the fencing and was yelling at the protesters that if you don't stop attacking the federal officers, if you stop tagging the building, if you stop trying to break through this fence, they'll stop tear gassing us. And he made himself a barrier, and he asked other people to join him to be a barrier between him, between the federal agents and the rioters, in hopes to stop the rioting. So that was possibly a resident of the area speaking a little bit of truth to he might have even been one of the activists. I don't know, but he was absolutely right about it. It's like, hey, if you just stop attacking them, they'll stop shooting rubber bullets at us and stop tear gassing us.
Yeah, I mean, it's just you can see it in the video here too. I mean, this video is supposed to be from the New York Times explaining how, well, the violence really only started when, the federal agents came up. Like, you see, let's see, yeah, here you see like fireworks coming in from the crowd. Like, did those fireworks just like appear in their hands as soon as the federal troops spawned in? Like, is it just like, oh, like everyone got upgraded weapons and it's Trump's fault? Like, oh, like where did this Roman candle come from? It just appeared in my hand. Like, oh, I guess I better shoot it at law enforcement officers. Like, there's not any justification for that. Like, there's not stories of these agents going to people's houses and like dragging them out in the middle of the night. All of the quote unquote arrests and people getting drugged into unmarked cars, it's all happening next to the courthouse that they are attacking. And you can see the courthouse, you can see it in the videos, the just destruction of all the walls, like the facade, like they're pulling down fencing. The entirety of everything from ground to 6 foot up is just covered in graffiti. There's been multiple videos over the last weeks or so that they're beating in windows, they're throwing explosives in there. They have stated goals to set the courthouse on fire.
They've tried many times.
Yeah, you're definitely going to get some spicy air in the face if you're trying to do that. They are trying to get them to the other side of the street. As soon as those guys get over the other side of the street, the troops pull back and they de-escalate, and then the rioters come up again and they do another wave and push them back. As long as you stay on the other side of that street, they're not going to do anything. It's just they're trying to make distance. To try to protect that building that is a federal courthouse building. We cannot have in this country that people are attacking and burning down federal court buildings. This is a country of law and order. This is a country that has a government, a legitimate government structure. We are not going to just stand by and have those buildings burned to the ground. I mean, why? Like, this federal courthouse is not functionally different than the state house in D.C. Like, there's no fundamental difference. I know the people in the one think that they're a little bit more important than the people in the other, but from like my perspective, the function of the government, they're both equally important. They are both places that the federal government conducts operations, and I think that the federal government is a legitimate form of Republican government that I support, and we are not going to just start burning down government buildings. That's not how this works. That is not appropriate, and it is absolutely within the jurisdiction of federal agents to defend that property, and it is even expected of them. I expect that they are doing that. And if people are going to be approaching that, no, it's not the responsibility of the federal officers to just stand there until one of them dies or several of them get blinded by Antifa lasers before they do anything about it. It's not that, you just need to like sit there and watch them peacefully break into the building and peacefully set it on fire and then peacefully kill one of your buddies before you're allowed to engage them. That's not how this works.
Right. And yeah, if you're wondering why those federal agents have to be there, it's because the local police are refusing to do their jobs. So if you don't want the federal agents to be there doing enforcement activities, well, then have your police actually do the proper enforcement activities to protect the community. The only reason why they're there is because the police are not.
Yeah, exactly. And it's the same issue with like Chicago and their crime rate. It's like, well, you guys don't want the federal agents coming in there to clean up the crime problem. Well, maybe you could have done something about that yourself the last 60 years.
Yes.
They had 60 years to do it. If we just give them one more year, they're sure that they'll get it done.
So if it's the federal agents that are causing the escalation, then how do you guys explain the people that are being killed? And there was one Trump supporter who was recently killed. He was a black Trump supporter in the area who was shot and killed. Was it today or yesterday?
Yeah, I think it was Memphis. I think
Memphis.
It was yesterday.
But in Portland, we had a woman who was stabbed right near this the courthouse. Was that stabbing caused of someone unrelated to the federal agents, caused by the federal agents when someone stabs
that was because they were the stabber and the shooter were hungry. They wanted bread. We learned that from AOC. She has on good authority that the reason people are murdering each other is because they are hungry for bread.
Right. Also, I know that they're breaking into jewelry shops because of the lack of bread too.
Yes. As is well known, jewelry shops are where bread is.
Right. Also, there was this one hair care store where they sell lots of like shampoo and soaps and stuff.
Also,
and that place broke
bakery.
into and got looted because obviously they're very hungry and that's where you store the bread.
Yes. Funny how socialists still always concerned about bread, and like under capitalism, like I'm on keto where I specifically don't eat bread because there's so much fucking bread in our capitalist society, it causes health problems. And yeah, somehow the socialists can't figure out how to get bread.
Yep. The irony. Yes. All right, so
all right, well, yeah, I'll keep going through here. So, mostly peaceful. Hundreds of businesses have been destroyed. People have been attacked and killed for...
We cover all this.
Yeah, 60 days. Yep. All right. Well, yeah, I think you went through all that.
Yep, we good.
So, right. The media has been trying to conflate this with... yeah, but this is... The stuff in Portland is different than the Operation... Legend that we talked about in the previous story. The operation in Portland is called Operation Diligent Valor, and the media is doing its best to conflate the two, and trying. They're lying about what is going on in Portland. They're lying about what Operation Diligent Valor is, trying to say that these are unmarked agents that are unidentifiable driving around in unmarked cars and like pulling people out of their beds and beating them up in the streets and like, hiding them away in black sites. And then they're trying to conflate that with Operation Legend, which is, as we just told you, Trump is surging multiple agencies across the country to try and stop the crime wave in various liberal controlled cities. And so what the media is trying to do is say that these are the same thing, and that what Trump is doing with Operation Legend is to take all of the Gestapo-like action of Diligent Valor and spread that out to every city, which is just really rich because it's just multiple layers of lies. Like, they're lying about what is going on in Portland, and then they're lying that what's going on in Portland is trying to be duplicated in other cities, that they're even related at all. And it's just this idea that they're trying to gin up in the media that Trump is like, this is it. Like, this is like the Nazi takeover. This is Trump sending out the jackboots out to every city, and they're going to come knock on your door next week and drag you off to, the American Auschwitz. Like, this is what they're trying to gin up, this idea. And it's all absolutely fake. It's completely fake. Yeah, it's all completely fake. And it boggles the mind. It's very hard to keep track of because it used to be that there was like, the truth, and then they would, ice it with a lie. There's a little patina of mistruth or framing on it. But now every single layer of the story, every single reference, every single framing is just completely false and fabricated. And it's really hard to keep track of because by the time they get to the end of an article, their conclusion is a lie based off of 7 other lies that are all referencing these other things that are really mis and half truths. And it's just like, well, I don't even know where to start on debunking this. Like, this is just absolute, completely fabricated reality.
It takes like 4 times the length of the original article just to debunk said article with the actual information. So, yeah. It's insane. You just take the first line of the New York Times article. Just that one line has 3 or 4 lies in it, false assumptions that they are making about what's going on in Portland. And the problem is that there's this compounding lie where the people who are actually their audience have lie built upon lie built upon lie until they've created a false universe from which their minds now live in.
Yes, it's a fan fiction universe that has its own canon, and you're coming in saying like, yeah, but like the real thing that happened was this, and I'm like, no, like that's not canon. We know what the real story is.
So what gives a country strength is its unity, right? A common culture, common cultural context. Problem is they've created these separate universes that people now live in their minds, at least. Obviously, we all have only the one universe, but then how we perceive it can be so drastically different. It's like a different universe. That now we don't have the same cultural context. We have different assumptions about the world. We don't live in the same world, and thus do not have much in common. And now, because of that, much of our country does not have unity with each other. We don't even have a common ground to stand on.
Yeah, there's this quote that some commentators on the right are trying to use as inspiration. That one of the benefits of being a conservative is that eventually reality reasserts itself, and it's kind of this idea that the left likes to live in this fantasy land, and eventually reality will catch up to them. And so, as a conservative, while you might not be believed at the time, eventually you'll be proven right because reality always has to reassert itself. And while I think that's true, I don't think that quote has been tested in the modern media environment where you're able to keep that false sense of truth going for so long. For so long you can keep that going with the modern media. And yeah, maybe reality will eventually reassert itself, but I think that's not going to happen until it's too late. Like, I think we'll all be dead by the time reality finally reasserts itself. And it's like, well, I was conservative, and I kind of saw it coming that your policies would lead to us all dying. I'm glad I was right, as we're all dying. I would prefer that maybe before reality reasserts it, perhaps reason could reassert itself first. And then maybe
sometimes reality reasserting itself is like very, very painful and destructive near end of society or end of society. Like it's not a good thing.
Yeah, because like when reality reasserted itself for the every single communist revolution, but in most in particular the communist revolution, when reality reasserted itself, 100 million people died. Like 100 million people died of starvation. That was reality reasserting itself. I would prefer that reality reassert itself before 100 million people die.
Yeah, like in North Korea, they still haven't had reality reassert itself, and people are eating fucking grass. So, I mean, still waiting.
There was this great meme I saw on Twitter today, and it was I should see if I can find it. There's like this guy, and he's talking on the phone to somebody, and he's like, "Yeah, like I know socialism didn't work in Venezuela, and they're eating their pets, but like that wasn't real socialism."
The dog killed his owner.
Yeah, he's like, I think he's like, I know they're eating their pets, but that wasn't real socialism. I think Bernie can get it figured out this time. And his dog's sitting there like watching him talk on the phone, and then the last frame is his dog's like suffocating him with a pillow in the bed.
Yes, pets, don't let your owners support communism.
Yeah, good boys don't let their owners support communism. Otherwise, you're gonna be a eaten boy.
Yeah, not quite as good.
Let's see here. Aw, wolves are so cute.
They are.
We were
so
looking
next
at
story?
cute wolves. I think that's. Oh no, we do have more stories, don't we?
We have guns and hoax.
Man, I liked a lot of stuff on Twitter since I saw that. Oh, there it is. Alrighty. Here we go. Yeah. Yeah, I know that socialism has killed over 100 million people and that people in Venezuela are eating their pets, but real socialism has never been tried. Bernie said it'll be different this time. His dog's just like, nope. That's a good dog. Alrighty, so our next story is it guns? Is guns or
guns?
Guns! Guns!
So, on the 23rd of July, a man was shot after breaking into his neighbor's home, who he had recently had an argument with. You shouldn't break into anyone's home, but definitely don't break into someone's home when they know you hate them. They might not even wait very long before shooting you.
And if someone breaks into your home, you should shoot them.
Yes. So, bad idea all around. That guy is now dead. Don't break into people's houses. It's easy.
Do you think he learned his lesson?
No, I think the last thing that went through his mind was a bullet.
Good.
So on the 21st, in Nashville, a man rammed two victims in their car with his car, and then opened fire, shooting an unspecified large quantity of bullets into the victim's car.
That's a lot of bullets.
It was apparently a lot. They didn't say how many though. And hitting both victims and disabling the car. The car was so damaged it wouldn't drive. The two victims, one male and one female, were able to flee the scene and, while running away, fired backwards at the person shooting at them, shooting him and killing him. So impressive.
Damn, were they
Possibly.
like? Did that guy like attack the guys from Wanted?
I don't know.
All right. Well,
Bad day though.
yeah, nice. Good job. My little locality, we now have to wear masks in all public locations, and I like walked up to my range the other day, and the sign said like you have to wear a mask coming in, and so I was like, oh, this is strange. So I put on my mask, which is like a big bandana, and I was like, okay, I guess I'll put on my bandana mask while walking in with my big mirrored aviators. And, like, I've got just, strapped to the nines with all my guns, and, like, walking to the range. I'm like, they're going to shoot me.
I remember the first time I was bringing my firearm into the armory on base, because there's a privately owned firearm. But there's a rule. You can't have firearms on base in housing. So, unless you're, obviously, for your duties. So, like, okay, so I have a gun on
So you're
base.
not allowed to have guns then when you're living there.
Yes, if you're living on base, you're not allowed to have a gun. Yes.
That's awful.
So, or you can have it. It has to be stored in the armory, right? Okay. And then you can only have it in your car traveling from the armory to the gate to leave and back. Right, it's dumb. So, I'm like, I'm not allowed to have a gun on me, but I have to bring it on base to then put it in armory. So I was like concerned, what if I get pulled over? Like, are they going to believe me? But then also, the armory is right next to the police headquarters for the base, right? Yeah. So I'm having to walk through right past the headquarters with a gun in my hand, and like, okay.
You didn't have like a case or a bag. You just like, I'm just going to walk around with a gun on a base and hope for the best.
So
you look like an active shooter.
I know. So at the time, I didn't have a case either. Right? So I took the mag out, held the gun up showing the well as I walked into the armory so they could see that there was no mag in it. And I hold the mag up like, please don't shoot me.
Why did you call them? It'd just be like, hey, like I want to bring my personal gun in. Like, is there a proper way to do that so I don't look like a fucking idiot?
I was like brand new to the military, so I didn't know the number. I didn't know how to look for it. I was an idiot, but I definitely looked like a walking
showing them, you're like, oh, like showing my gun to them in a conspicuous way will definitely make them think I'm not there to shoot them.
So, yeah, that was my first experience with owning a firearm in the military, not for service. It's just like so much simpler. Like, I'm fine going around base strapped up when I'm doing my job, but I was all like freaking out. I'm like, what do I do when I'm not working? I need to deliver my gun. Anyways, let's do the next story.
Alrighty. Well, hate hoaxes, which is a semi-frequent segment that we have. There is, thankfully, well, I don't know if thankfully, I guess just it's a fact. Like, it's not good or bad. It's just a fact that there's less hate hoaxes than there are defensive uses of a firearm. So this segment is a little less frequent than the defensive use of a firearm segment. So, hate hoax this week was actually from a couple of weeks ago. A Texas A&M student plastered his own car with hate speech. Late last month, Texas A&M student Isaiah Martin arrived at his car to find messages of hate on his windshield, which you can see in the picture above. After a police investigation, it was determined that Martin himself was the one who put those messages on his car. Once again, we see that the minority demand for hate crimes far outpaces the majority's ability to supply them, and so the hate events must be fabricated to make up the difference.
Imagine being so boring and so in need of attention and to feel special that you have to fake a hate crime against yourself.
Well, I mean, imagine living in a country that's so unracist that you have to fabricate
your own.
Yeah, you have to fake a hate crime because no one actually hates you.
I just want to be hated so bad. Why can't I be hated?
Maybe he wanted bread.
He just wanted bread, and this is how you get it.
I think it would be funny if one of the conservative commentators, this would probably be like a Crowder thing, but go to one of the riots and just throw bread at people. Be like, we're trying to help. AOC said that they wanted bread. We want them to stop burning down the cities. We're trying to help.
If you just hand out loaves of bread, they're just going to start throwing bread. Which will probably get into the news.
Yes.
You'll start a whole new thing. People start bringing their own bread to throw.
Now, I wouldn't encourage anybody to do this, but if someone knew what AOC's address was, and if that happened to get published out, and if everybody who saw it sent her a loaf of bread, I think that would be funny.
I mean, they did that to Nancy Pelosi. They all sent her bricks. Remember that?
Oh, I do remember that. They sent her Trump bricks, and she, like, freaked out.
Hilarious.
Which was also that was a bad branding idea, because I think somebody was pointing out, like, I think it was Crowder was pointing out, it was like, yeah, like, I see what you guys were doing with, like, putting Trump on the brick, but, like, you were just asking for somebody to take one of those Trump bricks and throw it through someone's window, and then now you have a Trump brick getting thrown through people's windows. It's just not good optics in any shape or form.
Fact. I get that. But, you know, if she had just used those bricks to build the wall around her house a little bigger, then she could have avoided having what's-her-face, you know, protest on her lawn.
Well, you know, it's funny because like our previous story, now that the president has the newfound power to legislate, again, it was in the Constitution the whole time. Like, obviously, it was the intention of the founding fathers to create a king.
Just like dead babies.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. They definitely wanted to be able to have the private right to kill your baby and also have a king. But we just like don't need Congress anymore. Like, it's just completely superfluous. Like, it doesn't like. So what if Nancy and Chuck don't want to pay for the wall? Not up to them. King Trump said so.
Yeah, it's pretty redundant having an entire body of politics that makes law when the president can do it himself. Like, they're just a waste of money now.
We'll probably get rid of the Supreme Court too.
I mean, yeah, now the Supreme Court has given him all power. I mean, there's no point for them.
Absolutely.
Let's just let him judge. We just appoint him as judge.
Well, he could just legislate that he is the new judge of the king. Like, he's his own judge, and he's the best judge.
Exactly. He's so
could,
great.
He's so good that he could determine if he could figure out if it's a rhino or a hippo. He could judge
exactly.
the difference.
If he's the only Supreme Court justice, it'd be really awkward if he has a split decision.
So, Dyer, now that we're at the end of the show, just like Trump said that he was asked to say a series of words, and then later in the test, they asked him, Howitzer sent us a lemon. Thank you, Howitzer. Later in the test, they asked him if he remembered. He sent us another lemon. Asked
Thank you.
Trump if he remembered the words that were said earlier in the test. So, Dyer, do you remember the 5 animal pictures that I showed you at the beginning of the show? Can you recite those?
One of them was not an animal, by the way. I just want to point out, and that's cheating at the trick question. You're trying to trick me.
I'm not trying to trick you. I'm just trying to test your brain, Dyer. What were the 5 animals?
There was the lion, the camel, the awesome wolf. I'm definitely not the F-35. That's not an animal. You're trying to trick me.
That was 4.
What was the other one?
Come on, Dyer. You could do it. We had the lion, the camel. I don't know about the awesome wolf. I don't know about that. And then you had the F-35, but there was one in between that. You ain't got no IQ, son. It was a rhino, not hippo.
Oh yeah, it was a rhino.
the hippo with horns. It was a unicorn hippo.
Is that normal for there to be 2 horns on a rhino?
Probably depends on the rhino. I'm gonna say yes, but I'm not a rhinologist, so I don't know.
It's not what that's called.
How do you know? What's it called then?
It's not a rhinologist, I'll tell you that.
But you don't know what it is. So it could be. It could be that, but you don't know. You don't have any evidence to the contrary.
A scientist just for rhinos.
What do you call an F-35 engineer?
An idiot.
Yep. What is this like a? What's wrong with this one? Is this one like out of the shop or something? Like, why does it look like it's got spackle on it?
Let me take a look. It's a zoologist.
The zoologist is who invented the F-35.
No.
It adds up.
Animals.
It looks like it looks like it just had cracks and they like spackled it up like I would in the bathroom if I was remodeling it or something.
No, those are panels.
Why do they look so weird?
I don't know. The whole plane looks weird to me.
It's just hideous.
Yes, hideous and not functional.
It's not intimidating at all. Just like this thing.
Rar.
He said it, guys. This definitely is not evidence going into the folder.
F-35 is the Bradley of the Air Force, right? Yes, it absolutely is the Bradley of the Air Force. However, far more expensive.
Yes. And it can fit as many troops.
It's a troop carrier fighter bomber.
Alrighty, guys. What's that?
Can you imagine if they tried to make a troop carrier bomber?
It'd be like a ODST ship, but like suborbital. You could do that. You know what the ODSTs are?
No.
They're the orbital drop shock troopers from Halo, where they would they'd be like the first in. They would drop them in pods from orbit, and they would crash into the surface, and it would pop open the pod, and they'd pop out and like just start wreaking havoc. Shock troopers. But you could like, I mean, it basically would be like parachuters, but like they come in a lot hotter than parachuters do. Yeah. They're
Way
cooler.
hotter.
Yeah, they're way hotter for sure. Alrighty. Well, they've done that with the B-52. Huh. I didn't know that. I'm not a very good military historian, though. Anything else, Dyer?
Nope, I'm good.
Alrighty. Well, thank you guys for joining us. Thank you, Dyer, for having me. And,
No worries.
We'll see you on Wednesday for games, and then Dyer can't do Thursdays for a while, but I will maybe try to do a Thursday on my own. I don't know what the topic or format will be. I will probably just make it up as I go along. If you guys are interested in that, come join me on Thursday. If you're not interested, I will just sit in my office by myself streaming to nobody, which is somehow more lonely than just being in my office and not streaming to nobody.
That sounds so terrible. All right, we'll see you guys on Wednesday. Dire Wolf out.